And then you also was a business guru, not a business, a fitness guru during the
We're not gonna talk about what's been going on lately. I hadn't been doing what I'm supposed to do in that aspect of it,
That's
but
fine. But
life happens.
you got skinny. I said, who? She done lost a whole half of herself. What's going on? And I'm sitting here eating Cheetos and pints of ice cream. I'm like, wait a minute now. I'm supposed to be still moving? Okay. What's going on, y'all? This is another episode of the Inside My Box podcast. I am Marla Denise. Today, I am joined by someone who's dedicated her life to educating others. It is Dr. Brittany Singleton. What's going on?
Hi, everybody. How are y'all today? I'm glad to be here with you, Marla Denise.
I'm glad you're here. I'm excited. So to start it off, I'd like to always think about how we met, like how we even came in contact with each other. And I know it was at Tougaloo College. I just don't remember. Like, do you remember when?
I don't remember exactly when, but with Tougaloo being so small, everybody just mingled it. I don't know.
Yeah. Like Tougaloo was like less than 1,000 people total, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you were Delta, I was AKA, so we were rivals, but I would see you out all the time. I think you lived in the same apartment complex as Jay Lim for a minute, and I would see you over there. And it's just like, in Mississippi, when you live in a small city and especially go to a small school like that, it's just someone Like, it's like you don't even think about, oh, I met this, like, it's just someone that's known for years. And we just keep in contact with social media and stuff.
Yep.
And I hang out with your best friend out here.
Right.
Well, let's go ahead and get into it. Like I said in the intro, you have dedicated yourself to educating other people, children to be exact. Am I correct? What age range do you teach?
So currently I teach special education K through 4th grade now at a charter school in Tennessee, in Nashville.
Okay. So the K through 4th grade, and then, but you also, we'll get into other things that you do with older kids, but what was your journey? What made you want to become an educator?
So I always tell people I came to Tougaloo as a pre-med major, and I was going to go to school to become a dentist. I was going to Meharry. And It's crazy now because my best friend is living that dream and I'm living the opposite. But when I got to Tougaloo, I started volunteering in my old elementary school at New Hope Christian School and working with children. I'm like, okay, well, this is where I'm supposed to be. So the next semester, I ended up changing my major from pre-med to English. And I'm like, okay, I'm going on a journey to be a teacher. And so as soon as I got done at Tougaloo in 2008, that following school year, I got my first job as a 1st grade teacher at French Elementary School in West Jackson.
Nice. So you went to New Hope? Is that that's private church based? I just interviewed someone who went to New Hope, Kayla Booker. Do you know her?
Okay, yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, she'll be on this season, so you all will both be featured on the podcast. That's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's interesting that you had this one idea, and I think that goes to what a lot of people go through, especially like me, because I was supposed to be in medical school too, where I was a pre-med major, graduated bachelor's with biology, and then I was like, let's switch it up. And it's just like, I don't know. I think I thought about this the other day where you hear this thing where you have a plan for your life, but then God is like, nah, you should be over here. Like, come on, follow me. And then when you let yourself follow him, then you come to know, like, I'm really supposed to be here. When was that solidifying moment was it a certain moment where you were like, okay, this is what I'm meant to do? Do you feel like you're in your purpose?
I do, and you know, every year it becomes even more clear. I think after volunteering at the old elementary school, I figured out that was where I was supposed to be. But most recently, I knew I was walking in my purpose, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. For my move from Jackson to here in Nashville,
Mm-hmm.
um, I never saw myself moving, and I had never been away from home and all of all of my life. But this move has shown me so much about myself. It's made me grow in ways that I never saw myself growing. But it's been the best decision because now I feel like I can go and conquer the world, just by taking that first step. And the saying
Mm-hmm.
goes, you just take the first step. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the step.
Exactly.
It'll lead you where you're supposed to go.
Exactly. Well, you can always plan for the future, but God has his own plan. You don't know what's coming. And you just got to follow it. You got to trust and have faith. But setting those intentions and making sure that you are on the right path and doing what you need to do and do the work that's needed to prepare yourself just in case what you plan does come to fruition.
Right, right.
um what was that move like, so let's go back then. You got the job as a teacher and you really loved it working with kids. You then started graduate school after that. Okay, what was that experience like?
So I like to call myself now I'm a former career student because I've been in school all of my life. But I entered grad school in 2009 to work on my master's right after my first year teaching, and it took me about 3 years to complete. And I decided, okay, I'm gonna go back because the way education works, if you really want, and it's not always about the money, but to really maximize on what you are truly worth, you have to go all the way to the top as far as education is concerned.
Mm.
But I went back to get my specialist degree. That took me about 2 or 3 years. And so I started working on my doctorate degree at Mississippi College in 2017. I completed a year there and I hit a brick wall. I ran out of financial aid.
Oh
So I'm like, what am I going to do now? I've completed a year of this
man.
program. I cannot stop. Initially, when I got accepted into the program, I was told that it would be 85 hours to complete, which would take you about 5 years. But
Wow.
then the dean at that time said, well, I'm working with the board to get it cut down to 60 hours, which will take you about 2 to 3 years. So I'm like, okay. Well, I did my first year, ran out of financial aid, found out that the program did not get approved to go from 85 to 60 hours. I'm like, where am I going to get this
Oh man.
money for the next 4 years? I've started a journey that I have to complete. Okay, God, what's up?
Yeah.
So I remember sitting at my desk. I was emotional. I'm like, because I'm the type of person when I start something, I have to finish it.
That's
So
great.
I started looking at schools to see who had the same exact program that had, the Mississippi College had. I found Tennessee State. So at that time, I had completed 33 hours. So I'm like, okay, Tennessee State's program is 60. I'm like, God, if they take all of these hours, I only got this short amount of time. Let's go.
Uh-huh.
So I applied. I remember I was constantly making trips back and forth from Jackson to Nashville. The first one I
Wow.
took just to see, what the program was like. I met with the
Hmm.
dean. He said, I need you to come back in a couple of weeks so we can sit down and meet about the program of study. He didn't know that I didn't live there. So I had to explain to him that I'm driving back and forth
That's 6 hours, isn't it?
6 hours. So
Whew.
I go back the second time and I'm like, he's sitting down, we're going through the program of study. I'm sitting there, my heart is about to jump out my chest because I'm like, are they going to take all of this coursework? If not, I'm going to have to start over.
Mm.
So we sit down and we meet. At the end of the meeting, he's like, I'll take 30 of your hours. I'm like, that's all but one class. The program is
Oh,
60 hours, which means I come in with half of the coursework done.
good.
Got it. Okay, so now I'm like, I need some financial aid. End up applying for financial aid. Got that because Tennessee State is a public institution. Mississippi College is a private one. So they have
Mm.
different forms of financial aid that you can get. I'm like, okay, God, I'm in school. Now I need to find a job. The market here for teaching is off the chain. Tennessee has very good charter schools. I had started teaching in public school back home in Jackson, so I wanted to try my hands into charter school. I had a bunch of interviews. Anyway, ended up solidifying a job here as well. So the transition was And people always say the transition here was so smooth. So I know it had to be
Oh, nice.
from him. I got in
That I
school.
use that as a sign too. I'll go ahead though.
I got in school. I got a job. I found somewhere to stay. It was like just laying out. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and here I am 2.5 years later, finishing school and on to something else.
God is so good. Listen, I use that as a sign as well. When I switched from medicine to business, they took my GRE. I didn't have to take the GMAT. They immediately was like, okay, come on. And then I took the prerequisites. Like it was such, I was scared. And like at first I was like, wait a minute.
It was going so smoothly.
Yeah, like where the problems at? Where's the
Right.
struggle? And I mean, it wasn't easy to get it, but the transition into it was like seamless. I was like, okay, this might be meant to be. And I use that as a sign too. I'm glad you confirmed, that's a sign where God is leading you. If it's like that easy of a transition into something that you've been thinking about, then, you're on the right path. Also, you brought up something that's very interesting I wanted to touch on. You said that when you start something, you have to finish it. Now, I sometimes don't finish the things that I start, and I think I struggle with fear of success, where I'll do something well, get traction, and then when I see it's doing well, then I back off because I'm afraid of getting to that like success point. I've been able to push myself through school, but like other stuff like outside of school, it's hard to get to that point. What pushes you? What keeps you going to get past that, whatever that's in me, I guess, that's hindering me from like really reaching the top of my potential?
I come from two parents who were always go getters, and my mom raised me like she still. I kind of tell myself this now. I see myself turning to her as I get older, because I
We
call
all
her
do.
a perfectionist, and she had everything has to be a certain way. But she always told me two things. She always told me was never say can't when you can. Don't put can in your vocabulary because you can do whatever you put your mind to, and make sure that you finish whatever you start, even if it does not turn out like the success you thought it should be. At least you finished it and got done with it. Um, and I always have something that nudges at me when I'm starting something or doing something. If I don't finish it, I have anxiety. I don't sleep at night. I don't function well.
Wow.
It's crazy. I have to finish it. I have to. If there's a deadline I have to meet, if there's something like a project or something, or even school, I have to, or I have anxiety. I won't rest until it's done.
Wow. So in school, it was kind of like that, but outside of school, it's like you have to find that within yourself. And I think it's getting harder for me to find that, even though I still do it, like I'll still go throughout it. But I like that quality that you have is like, I'm trying to seek it now.
It's
And
a
that's
gift. It's a gift and a curse now. Because you want to be able to sleep at night.
that's true.
When I was younger, and I never will forget this teacher I had in fourth grade. She gave so much homework to be in the fourth grade, and I would get up in the middle of the night
Oh
to
my
finish the
goodness.
first thing in the morning, and I still do that. I don't sleep. I get up and I finish things, or if I have something to do, I wake up extra early on like a Saturday morning to make sure it's complete. That's just, I don't know. That's a gift and a curse because anxiety takes over, and I don't sleep.
So what are you passionate about? Education, is that something that drives you to passion, or just the need to finish and get done? It has to be passion as well, right?
And I think with the whole education thing, it's more so of helping others. I drive off seeing other people succeed and the joy they get from, succeeding when they reach a certain goal. And just knowing that I played a part in helping them reach their goals, what motivates me and drives me.
That's amazing. I'm motivated. So let's talk a little bit about education in the Black community. It's something that I think is very important because education broadens your view of what can be possible. It increases your network. It also gives you an opportunity to get a job, and a lot of people say you get debt, and I'm like, okay, if I'm making good enough money to pay off the debt, I'll be okay. You know, I would rather have the skill set needed to get a job that I can be okay with and feel secure with than not having that skill set and going after something. Now, I'm not saying that you have to go to school for a lot of things,
Right.
but you have to stay educated no
Right.
matter what you do. If you are an entrepreneur, you need to educate yourself about that field. You need to educate yourself about marketing. Like you have to stay diligent about education. So what are your views on education and the importance of that in the Black community?
I think it's very important in the Black community, but I don't think that it gets enough attention.
Mm.
Um, I was meeting with someone earlier this morning, who I was consulting with, and we'll talk about that business I started a little later. But I was telling her that the people of, and I know people hate this term, I do too, but the people of color or the Black community or the Latino community, they don't get enough attention when it comes to education.
Mm.
And we're always considered to be the underdogs. You know, they don't expect for us to do too much. But like you said, it comes from us having to educate ourselves. You know, as I've gotten older and being from, I went to a predominantly white high school and teaching
You did?
I did. I went to St. Joe. Um,
Oh, okay.
and being in the being a teacher within low income and Title I schools makes me see things from a different perspective. One of my main reasons was for becoming a teacher was to give back to those kids in those low socioeconomic status communities so that I can help them succeed, because I knew what it was like to go to school with, you know, white people.
Yeah.
And I remember having this conversation with my mom a couple of months ago, because I told her, I was like, you know, I didn't graduate at the top of my class. It's like 45 people in my class. But I
It's a
knew
small class.
I knew I was smart. I knew I should have been within the top 10 because I know I'm not dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her, I said, I don't remember them doing ACT prep for us. And she said, they did do ACT prep. They just didn't let us know about it. So they were educating the white students, but would tell us about it after the fact.
No, ma'am.
Which is one of the reasons why I chose to start my foundation to help us, because I know that we don't receive the resources that we need or the services that we need. And if they do offer the services, they're not really too quick to tell us about it because they don't want us to succeed as much. So it's up to us as African Americans to help each other reach levels of success.
Yes,
It's
it
up to us.
is.
And you know, it starts with us trying to use the resources and the experts we have within our race and our culture to help each other.
That's wow. So I went, you know, I grew up in Jackson too, but I went to all Black schools. I didn't know what it meant or what it felt like to be a minority until I went to MC. I went to MC2 for graduate school. And when I was there, you know, not a lot of people of color, Black people period, in the faculty or the staff, but 100% of the cleaning crew was Black. And so I was like, where am I? Because coming from Tougaloo, you know, all Black everything, just feeling comfortable to go into this place where you are like, how are people seeing me? You know, my mentality was like, how are people seeing me if there is no one to relate to me? You know what I mean? On an academic level, the only people they see that are like me are people cleaning up. And I'm like, it just messed me up. I was around, like, one dude actually came to me and said, you know what, Black people aren't dumb. What my dad and granddad taught me is wrong. And I was like, whoa, like in 2012.
Yeah.
So all that goes on in somebody's head when they're going, like, from a Black person's going into school, and actually high school, I would think it'll be even tougher for you to go through that environment as you're trying to learn who you are as a person and being a minority. Were you able to find community?
Now, it was out of a class of 45, I think it may have been between 8 to 10 Black people in that class. And I'm still friends with those people who I graduated from high school with to this day. We still keep in contact. But I do remember telling my mom once I graduated, I want to go back to people that look like me, which is one of the reasons why I chose Tougaloo, because I could identify with those people. I felt like I wasn't given a fair chance in high school. Like, I feel like teachers knew I was smart, but they didn't want to see us with anything, so they would give it to. It was crazy, and it's
No.
now that I'm older, I see it because back
Yes.
then I didn't see it. Now I see it.
I saw it when it was happening to me, and like in grad school, there were three teachers that I know of tried to give me a lower grade. Two succeeded, one did not. I had proof that I deserved a higher grade, and I had to beg him, stalk him, email him, call him. Finally, found him on Facebook and messaged him to change my grade. And it took a year and a half for him to change my grade to the right grade. Like, and then he begged me for him to write me a recommendation letter for school. I'm not going to, you think about it. Why would he
Oh
do
my
that?
God.
Right.
Right.
So it is a lot. It's a lot. And I think about these kids who go to these Ivy League schools where it's just
Yeah.
like, I couldn't imagine the pressure.
Yeah.
So, but you having that insight and going through it and knowing how to survive that, but knowing, and what kept you knowing that you were smart? What kept that self-confidence in you?
Because I knew, like, growing up, and my mom told me too, because my mom had me when she was a little older. She was 38 when she had me. I had older siblings. So I watched my brothers go to public school, but when it came to me, she was like, "No, you have to go here because of this." I didn't really question it, but I always knew I wouldn't, because I learned how to read at the age of 4. Not too many
Oh
kids
yeah.
doing it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I knew something was different. I knew my
Mhm.
level of intelligence, and I always say now, I don't really think like the GPA I graduated with from high school was accurate. Now, in Tougaloo, I didn't graduate with the highest GPA, but that was my own recognizance because I chose to do certain things and
Yeah.
party. But I should
Same.
apply myself more. But
I'm
I
guilty
knew
as
better.
well.
I knew better in high school, And I
Mhm.
know now, as I've gotten older and gone through graduate school, like nothing less than I've graduated with a master's with a 4.0, a specialist with a 3.9. My doctorate, I graduated with a 3.9. So I'm not,
Yes.
not anything. I'm not
Yeah.
dumb. It's just I feel like I wasn't given a fair chance, and I see
But
that now.
well, was that something at home that was instilled in you, or how did that confidence come about?
Like it was like I said, my parents always told me, you put your best foot forward, and if you can't put your best foot forward with doing anything, then don't even do it. And I'm like that now. If I can't give my all to something, I
Same.
won't do it. I won't do it.
Yeah. So, going back to the education in Black communities, so for me, progression in Black communities, I think requires a lot of more people being entrepreneurs, a lot more people creating revenue within the community. And with that comes with being able to run a business and educate yourself if you're not getting educated about it. Um, why do you think? I think in the South more so than any other place, education in the Black community is hugely stressed. Like growing up, your parents might say, become a doctor, a lawyer, and then that would be our way of having a stable future and being able to provide. So what do you say to those people who say, I don't want to be a doctor or a lawyer? Like, I don't know what I want to do. Like, why would I go to school? Like, why? Like, what do you say to kids like that?
I always tell kids when I first meet them, college is not for everyone. And my parents, coming from a 2-parent household, my parents didn't go to college, so I was first generation. My dad was a butcher who eventually made himself up to the top to be a meat market supervisor with Jitney Jungle and Sack and Save. My mom went to trade school and she worked in Medicare, Medicaid for like 30 plus years. But on the flip side of that, they were also entrepreneurs. My dad ran a meat processing business on the side during the holidays and turkey frying. My mom had her own little sewing business going and making clothes and things and designing clothes. So I've always had the entrepreneur spirit within me. But I always tell people, find what your passion is and what you're good at and go with it. It may not require you to go to college. It may require you to go to trade school, or it may require you not to do anything and just start the business. You have to find out what your passion is and your purpose and live through that. But
That's
I don't push college on people at all.
okay. Okay, that's good to know that because as an educator, a lot of people might say you want to like go to college, and don't even question it. But like your approach, and I've talked about this with my best friend, how if I had children, what would my approach be with them as far as education goes? And I think what you said hit the nail on the head. Follow your passion, figure out what that is first, and then go from there. And I think that's maybe like I was backwards in that, like, because I was programmed. I was one of those kids who was told, I didn't even know people didn't go to college. Like when I was a senior in high school, and people were like, "Oh, I'm not going to college." I'm like, "How are you not going to college?" Like I didn't even understand that. I thought that was just the next step. You go to 11th grade, 12th grade, and then you go to college. But like, so for me, it was already programmed. Go to college, and if you want a decent job, go to grad school. So I was like, let me finish that. And when I got out, I'm like, is this what I want to like? Then I started questioning things. And I think I was backwards in that, but I love your approach and what you said about with kids now. Follow your passion and then go from there and see what's needed to make yourself the best in whatever that passion is. So I love that. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
So we talked about your journey to becoming a PhD, the importance of being or black education in the black community. As far as education now during COVID, I think so important as far like little kids, especially to have that human interaction. How are you approaching your education during this time when you can't interact with them on a humanistic face to face level?
So actually, at my job, we just transitioned back to in person. When I first got back here to Nashville in July, we were going virtual, which was different because you're having to try to reach children through the computer, and being a special ed teacher, that's a lot different because you have
Wow.
to have that interaction with them. But it was working. I was able to form small groups and figure out what I exactly need to do for my students. Now it's been a little bit more difficult now that we've transitioned back to in person, but we still have some kids who are at home virtual and some who are in person. It's different, but I always tell my coworkers like this is the new norm. I feel like this is what we'll be doing from now on. It's taught me a lot about myself as a teacher. It's taught me that I need to incorporate, even though I was using technology, a little bit more technology within the classroom. And the kids, I have students now who are actually doing better that we've been virtual more so than in person.
Nice.
So it's shown some growth as well. But it's different, and it's I keep telling people it's out of our control, which is the part that sucks the most.
Mm,
But you have to figure out how you're going to use it for your benefit to become a better teacher.
yeah. So you've made the transition well. That's good to hear. And I'm interested to know how they were doing better. Maybe I don't know. Maybe they're more comfortable at home or something. That's
And
interesting.
I have students now, like one in particular. When he first started school, he wasn't as confident in answering questions. But
Um,
once it became virtual, like I have to stop him from answering questions.
that's great.
Take over the class. But I will say, at first during the transition, it was rough for me because I'm so used to doing it in person. So, being tired and burnt out. But now I just you have to find your niche and go with it.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and talk about your company. You have a company and a foundation, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So what you touched on it earlier. What does your company do? What's the name of it, and what do you do?
So I started a consulting business during the quarantine. The quarantine was actually a blessing for me because I had run myself raggedy. But I ended up starting this consulting business, and I started on Juneteenth. I know that's ironic.
Oh, okay.
But a person reached out to me and said, "Hey, I got this person I want you to help. They're starting a business. Can you help her?" And I'm like, "You want me to help her?" Like, I don't know. I know how to start a business, but I've never started that type of business.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up getting with her, helped her start her business off, which is doing well. And so I'm like, okay, well, maybe you can, this is something you can do. So I was in a Facebook group back in August, a couple of dissertation groups. get in those groups just to figure out like tips and meet people and that type of thing. And a particular lady there reached out to me and she said, "Hey, can you help me with some coding for qualitative research?" I'm like, "Okay, well, let's set up a Zoom call." I get on the call, I tell her everything I know. She breaks down, she cries. She said, "Have you ever thought about consulting?" I'm like, "God, are you trying to tell me?"
Right.
But I've always wanted to consult with people who aspire to be teachers. I didn't think about this aspect of it. And so I started the business. Clientele has picked up quickly. Um,
Nice.
I didn't see myself going in this direction. So that's something separate that I've done. And it's for people, it's called the Education Consultant. And education is spelled EDD, education, because I have an EDD, a doctorate of education, for people who are aspiring to be teachers, dissertation coaching, people who want to start businesses that are geared towards education, that type of thing, kind of help them out. And then I have the foundation as well, the John Henry Singleton Foundation.
Let's circle back to the before we get to the foundation, the company. How are you getting clients? What's your approach on reaching out? Just like Facebook groups, or do you have a network of teachers or potential teachers, or what's your approach?
So from the consulting that I did back in August, people from it's been word of mouth mostly. People
Wow.
have just been referring me word of mouth. I had somebody call this morning and say, "Hey, I need you to help this young lady. She's working on, about to defend her proposal. Can you give her some tips?" So it's just that one has been mostly word of mouth. The consulting services are offered virtually, which has worked pretty well so far. So maybe, like I said earlier, virtual is not so bad. It's
Right, because you could go everywhere with virtual. Nice, a boss. I like it. Because I'm wondering, because I'm not the best at marketing. I don't think I have my company on the side, and like word of mouth has been the greatest gift. And like I'm always interested in like hearing how people approach getting new clients and stuff. So this is like a personal question for me.
And
But
I can't take all the credit. I will say this. This is a shameless plug. I feel like anybody who is an entrepreneur who is running businesses should have a business advisor. So I meet with a business advisor twice a month. Her name is Jasmine Bright. She owns Jasmine Bright Consulting. So if anybody's looking for somebody who is a good business coach or a business consultant, y'all should find her because she's amazing.
that's a major key right there. Y'all write that down and go find her for real. Thank you for that. I'm gonna listen back and write that down. So let's get to your foundation. So you have that company where you're doing this consulting. There's something that looks like God led you to, and it just happened and is going great, which is wonderful. Then you found this foundation. What's the foundation? It's called John H. Singleton Foundation, right?
Right. It's called the John Henry Singleton Foundation. And I started this foundation. Well, I started tutoring back in 2016, 2015, 2016, around that time. And I was working in a low income school. So I started tutoring children on the side, who needed extra help, who were in my classroom and in the community I worked in. And so I'm like, well, I could really start a business doing this. But I'm like, I want to do a nonprofit to help children in education to eventually grow for the business to eventually grow to become a school specifically for special
Oh,
needs children.
wow.
So I started it and I said, well, what am I? I went through the process of what am I going to name it? And I always tell people this story. I was dating a guy during the time, and I told him the idea, and he was an entrepreneur. So I said, "Can you help me write a business plan?" And he helped me write the business plan. He probably doesn't know that he helped me get the foundation together. So he helped me write my business plan, and I started the foundation. I decided to name it after my dad and my brother because they inspired me to become a teacher and to keep their legacy going, even though they're not here anymore. So my next step, I'm working on building an after school program within the next year or so.
Oh.
So now I'm going through the phase. Like I told you, I have anxiety when I'm trying to figure things out. I've been tossing and turning lately, trying to figure out what's next. I know that I'm currently in a period of transition, trying to figure out what's next for me. But I really want this foundation to grow to be something big for children.
It will be because you have the passion for it. And I don't think that's anxiety that's keeping you up. It's just your passion to see it through. Like you are like I can hear it when you talk about it. And clearly from your actions behind it, it's been, you are putting your all into it. I can see it. So currently the foundation, what does the foundation function as currently? What does it do?
So it's a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and it offers tutoring services in all grades, all
Oh,
subjects.
all grades. Okay.
And then I offer ACT prep, praxis prep, and GED prep. So,
Oh, nice.
but I'm in the process now of trying to rebrand it. I am going to add the ACT prep and the praxis prep and the GED prep to the education consultant so that there's for
Okay.
young adults, that age. You see
Yeah,
what's going with it.
I got
And I
you.
want the foundation to specifically be geared towards just children.
Okay, nice. And that's I mean, probably God told you to do that so you could be able to do that because you have these two entities, these two businesses now to be able to manipulate it and do whatever you need to do. And so that's I'm inspired. Like that's like you are giving back in the process of building yourself up. And for me, I've always been like, I need to build myself up to this magical level, whatever that case might be, whatever that looks like. And then I'll be able to give back. But like you being able to set that up while you're still in school, already like stressed and busy working and studying and still finding the time to give back. So that I love that. And you said you wanted to do a after school thing. Well, how would that look? Would you like how does that work? Do you partner with a certain school or are you able to go to different schools and do it?
So, just to give you a little insight on where I'm headed with it, I want to eventually purchase my own building within the next couple of years. So that I'm able
Go ahead.
to be a feeder for different schools. You know how the YMCA kind of functions as an after school program?
Got you.
I want to do it in that entity.
This I see it.
I got some stuff up cooking up, but I'm so
Oh,
scared because I know what I want to do. I just need it to go just like I see
well, that's the thing where, God be like, it'll go, but not just like you see it, maybe. I don't know. But I'm inspired, like I said, like you are able to start something and see it through, which is not. I think you may not even know that's not an easy thing for a lot of people
it.
to keep themselves motivated to see the finish line and go past that. So I commend you for that. I'm looking forward to see the growth of John Henry Foundation and your consulting company and everything that you do. Anything else you want to talk about before we head out? About what you're doing, education, how you're feeling about your new journey after post school.
Oh, you know what? I will be honest with you. I didn't realize how I was running myself raggedy until quarantine. Quarantine opened my eyes. I was able to sit down and chill,
Yeah.
finish my dissertation. So now that I'm done with school, I can actually focus on my two businesses and make sure that they grow like they're supposed to.
Will you
Um,
still be teaching as well though, like in running into? Okay, got you. And then you also was a business guru, not business, a fitness guru during the COVID.
we're not gonna talk about what's been going on lately. I hadn't been doing what I'm supposed to do in that aspect of it,
That's
but
fine. But
life happens.
you got skinny. I said, who? She done lost a whole half of herself. What's going on? And I'm sitting here eating Cheetos and pints of ice cream. I'm like, wait a minute now. I'm supposed to be still moving. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I hope people listen to this and get inspired about your story and what you're going through and what you're doing and reach out to you for help if they need it. I love getting to know people's like background and seeing how they were passionate enough to see through their, hardships. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I really do. Thank you. I
What's your social media? How can people get in contact with you if they want tutoring, consulting, anything like that? Let them know.
So for the foundation, the Instagram name is JHS Foundation 14. That's on Instagram. And for the education consultant, it's tricky how you spell it. I'm sorry, y'all, I did this, but I just had to be different. It's spelled THE.D.D.UCATION Consultants. That's on Instagram. And you can find us on Facebook, the John Henry Singleton Foundation and the Education Consultant.
And I'll put all of that in the description of the video and the podcast episode, so they'll see it. And again, thank you so much. You can follow me if you want to follow me. You already follow me if you click this link. But if you happen to find me randomly, my Instagram is NSIDE_NY_BOX. Until we meet again, remember to love yourself, define yourself, and think for yourself. Peace.